John Sims loved Saturdays. He woke up to the smell of his mom's breakfast burritos. The sun was already warm on his face. It was going to be a perfect day in Tucson, Arizona. John had one chore to do before he could relax. He had to mow the lawn. The grass was tall and green from the summer rains. He pushed the mower back and forth, enjoying the fresh air. As he rounded the old oak tree, John felt something strange. The ground dipped low under his feet. He almost tripped. What was that? John stopped the mower. He looked back at the dip in the ground. It was small, but it wasn't there before. He felt a jolt of curiosity. John bent down and touched the dip with his hand. The ground felt soft and loose. He brushed away some leaves and loose dirt. He saw something hard and metal underneath. What could it be? John's mind raced with questions. He ran inside and grabbed a shovel from the garage. He had to find out what was buried in his backyard. Back outside, John started digging carefully around the metal object. The sun beat down on his back as he worked. Sweat dripped from his forehead. He didn't stop. He had to know. Finally, the metal object was completely uncovered. It was a large, round metal door, almost like a giant lid. It looked old and rusty. John's heart pounded in his chest. He'd never seen anything like it. What was it hiding? A secret room? Buried treasure? His imagination ran wild. He noticed a heavy handle on the side of the metal door. John took a deep breath and pulled. The metal groaned and creaked, resisting his efforts. It was stuck. John pulled again, harder this time, putting his whole weight into it. The door suddenly gave way with a loud clang, swinging open. John stumbled backward, landing on the grass. A rush of musty, stale air escaped from the opening. John coughed, waving his hand in front of his face. The air smelled old, like something forgotten for a very long time. John scrambled to his feet and peered inside. He couldn't believe his eyes. The hole wasn't just a small pit, it was a large, round opening leading down into darkness. A set of metal stairs spiraled down into the unknown. A shiver ran down John's spine. What was this place? Was it dangerous? He hesitated for a moment, fear battling with his overwhelming curiosity. John took another deep breath. He couldn't turn back now. He had to see what lay at the bottom of those stairs. John grabbed a flashlight from his back pocket and switched it on. The beam cut through the darkness, revealing more of the metal staircase. Taking a deep breath, John slowly started down the stairs. Each clang of his foot on the metal steps echoed eerily around him. Section 5. Taking the Plunge. This is the moment John had been preparing for, the culmination of weeks of planning and anticipation. He stood at the entrance of the underground tunnel, the weight of the unknown pressing down on him. The air was thick with the scent of earth and moisture, a stark contrast to the world above. The air grew cooler and damper as John descended deeper into the earth. Each step echoed in the confined space, a reminder of the isolation that lay ahead. The walls, slick with moisture, seemed to close in around him, amplifying the sense of claustrophobia. The darkness felt heavy, pressing in on him from all sides. It was as if the very shadows were alive, whispering secrets of the past. John's breath came in shallow gasps, the weight of the underground pressing on his chest. His heart thumped in his chest, a drumbeat of anticipation and fear. Each beat was a reminder of his vulnerability, of the unknown dangers that lurked in the darkness. He could feel the adrenaline coursing through his veins, sharpening his senses. The metal stairs ended abruptly at a concrete floor. The sudden change in texture underfoot was jarring, a stark reminder of the transition from the familiar to the unknown. John paused for a moment, gathering his courage before moving forward. John shone his flashlight around, illuminating a long, narrow corridor. The beam cut through the darkness, revealing the rough, uneven walls and the occasional glint of metal. The corridor seemed to stretch on forever, a tunnel into the abyss. The air was thick with the smell of dust and something else, something metallic and strange. It was a scent that spoke of age and abandonment, of secrets long buried. John wrinkled his nose, trying to place the unfamiliar odor. John walked slowly down the corridor, his footsteps echoing in the silence. Each step was a measured act of will, a deliberate move deeper into the unknown. The silence was oppressive, broken only by the occasional drip of water from the ceiling. The walls were bare concrete, cold and damp to the touch. They seemed to absorb the light from his flashlight, making the darkness even more profound. John ran his fingers along the rough surface, feeling the chill seep into his bones. He ran his hand along the wall as he walked, his senses on high alert. Every sound, every shadow was a potential threat. The underground world was a place of mystery and danger, and John knew he had to stay vigilant. At the end of the corridor, John saw a light. It was a beacon in the darkness, a promise of something beyond the oppressive gloom. His heart leaped at the sight, a flicker of hope in the underground maze. It was faint, but it was definitely there. The light seemed to pulse with a life of its own, drawing him forward. John felt a surge of determination, a need to reach the source of the light. He picked up his pace, his heart pounding with a mix of excitement and apprehension. The corridor seemed to narrow as he moved faster, the walls closing in around him. But the light was getting closer, a promise of discovery and perhaps escape. Section 6. The air grows heavy. As John got closer, the light grew stronger, revealing a heavy metal door at the end of the corridor. He reached out a trembling hand and pushed against the door. It swung open with a groan, revealing a large, cavernous room beyond. John gasped as he stepped inside. The room was enormous, easily the size of his entire house. It was lit by a series of bare bulbs hanging from the ceiling, casting the room in a dim, yellowish light. The air was thick and stale, heavy with the smell of dust and disuse. John coughed, waving his hand in front of his face. It felt like he hadn't taken a full breath in hours. He shone his flashlight around the room, his mind struggling to comprehend what he was seeing. Section 7. A World Untouched. In a world where time seemed to stand still, John found himself in a place that felt both familiar and alien. It was as if he had stepped into a forgotten era, a time capsule waiting to be discovered. The room was filled with all sorts of strange and wonderful things. Each item seemed to tell a story, whispering secrets of the past to anyone who would listen. There were old cars covered in dusty sheets, relics of a bygone era. The cars, though hidden under layers of dust, still held an air of elegance and mystery, their chrome bumpers gleaming faintly in the dim light, reflecting the room's sparse illumination. It was as if they were waiting for someone to bring them back to life. Shelves lined the walls, stacked high with boxes and crates of all shapes and sizes. Each box, each crate, seemed to hold a piece of history, a fragment of a story long forgotten. In the center of the room, John saw a massive metal table covered in tools and equipment. The table was a testament to the craftsmanship of a different time, a different world. Wires and cables snaked across the surface, connecting to strange boxy machines that hummed softly in the silence. The machines seemed to pulse with a life of their own, adding to the room's enigmatic atmosphere. John felt a surge of adrenaline. What was this place? His mind raced with possibilities, each more fantastical than the last. Was it some kind of secret laboratory? A hidden workshop? The air was thick with mystery, and John felt like an explorer uncovering ancient secrets. He felt like he had stumbled into another world, a place where time had stopped, and the past was preserved in perfect detail. A world untouched by time. The room was a sanctuary of the past, a place where history was not just remembered, but lived. He cautiously approached the metal table, running his hand over the smooth surface. The table felt solid, enduring, as if it had weathered countless storms. The metal was cold to the touch, sending a shiver down his spine. It was a reminder of the room's untouched nature, a place frozen in time, waiting for someone to uncover its secrets. Section 8. Whispers from the Past. John picked up a pair of heavy goggles lying on the table, their lenses clouded with age. He held them up to his eyes, peering through the grime. For a moment he imagined the person who had worn these goggles, working tirelessly in this secret space. Who were they? What were they working on? The questions swirled in John's mind, each answer more unbelievable than the last. He carefully set the goggles back down, his heart pounding in his chest. He felt like he was on the verge of uncovering something truly incredible, something that could change everything. John continued to explore the room, his mind racing with possibilities. Every object he touched, every shadow he glimpsed seemed to whisper secrets from the past. Section 9. A Mystery Unfolds. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the room, John knew he had to leave. The garden, with its intricate maze of flowers and hidden paths, had always been a place of solace for him. But today, it felt different. The air was thick with an unspoken tension, and the shadows seemed to whisper secrets he wasn't ready to hear. He couldn't stay here forever, no matter how tempting it seemed. The garden, once a sanctuary, now felt like a cage. Every corner he turned, every flower he touched, reminded him of the weight of the discovery he had made. It was a burden he couldn't carry alone. He had to tell someone, to share what he had found. The revelation was too significant to keep to himself. But the question remained, who could he trust? The world outside the garden was vast and indifferent, and he needed someone who would believe in the impossible. But who would believe him? Who would understand? The enormity of his discovery weighed heavily on his mind. He thought of his friends, his family, and even strangers he had met. Each face flashed before his eyes, but none seemed right. The truth was too bizarre, too outlandish. John took one last look around the room, committing every detail to memory. The way the light filtered through the leaves, the scent of blooming flowers, the distant hum of the city beyond the garden walls. He knew he might never see this place again, and he wanted to remember it exactly as it was. He knew that this was just the beginning of a much larger adventure, an adventure that would lead him down a path he could never have imagined. The garden had been the starting point, but the journey ahead was filled with unknowns. He felt a mix of excitement and trepidation as he prepared to step into the world beyond. With a deep breath, John turned and walked back towards the heavy metal door. Each step felt like a farewell, a goodbye to the life he had known. The door loomed large and imposing, a barrier between the familiar and the unknown. As he stepped out into the corridor, he couldn't shake the feeling that he was leaving a part of himself behind, a part that would forever be connected to this strange and wonderful place. The corridor was dimly lit, and the air was cool against his skin. He glanced back one last time, feeling a pang of nostalgia. John emerged from the hole, blinking in the fading light. The world outside seemed both familiar and alien. The colors were more vibrant, the sounds more distinct. It was as if he was seeing everything for the first time. He stood there for a moment, gazing at the familiar surroundings of his backyard. The garden, once a place of comfort, now felt like a distant memory. He realized that he had changed, and so had the world around him. The world seemed different now, somehow changed. He was changed. The experiences in the garden had left an indelible mark on him. He felt a newfound sense of purpose, a drive to uncover more of the mysteries that lay hidden in the world. John knew that his life would never be the same. The journey ahead was uncertain, but he was ready to face it. With a determined look in his eyes, he set off, ready to embrace whatever came next.